good.
I'd like to ask everyone to join me in prayer, please. Father God, we come to you having just finished a season of Thanksgiving, which, as most spoiled children, we probably failed to thank you for so many things. And yet, one that we can't help but be cognizant of, the rains that you've yielded to us will continue to keep our lakes full and to serve us and keep us with the only thirst we will have is that for you. Father God, we ask that you look over the men and women that serve in uniform and place their lives on the line to protect others all the time. Father God, we ask that you guide and bless our governments and their representatives as they serve the people that they ask to serve. It's in Jesus' name we ask these things. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge of allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now the Texas flag.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. Take seats, please. I do have one announcement to make that's not on the agenda, but I would like to ask the Honorable Bob Hampton to stand. And if
well, it's hard to stand anymore, Jim.
I realize it's your age, but Bob, happy birthday. And
happy birthday, Bob.
Thanks for putting that out, Judge. In the Marine Corps, we said payback was a...
Well, you know, the Marine Corps always did owe the Army something.
Give me that hammer.
All right, if I could ask the court to take action on the consent agenda.
Judge, having reviewed the consent agenda, I would make a motion that we pass it as presented.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Mahler, second by Commissioner Watts to approve the consent agenda as presented. Anyone have any questions or comments on those items? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Item number 1 on general business, review and approve the emergency and regular bills for payment. What, are y'all trying to figure out what day you looked at the bills? Or?
Well, I know I didn't.
It wasn't Friday.
I know I didn't get to look at them.
I make a motion we approve the emergency and regular bills for payment, Judge.
Second.
Motion by, sir?
And wish they were less.
Yeah. Motion by Commissioner Mahler, second by Commissioner Watts to approve the emergency and regular bills. Any comments or questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Item number 2 is discuss, consider, take action to revise the Core Order 1212.794 to allow uniform reimbursements for both non-taxable and taxable items as shown on the attached list. Reimbursements will be submitted on a quarterly basis. Taxable items will be paid through payroll with appropriate deductions and contributions for FICA, retirement, withholding, life insurance, and workers' compensation. Sheriff Duke, anything you want to speak to on that?
Well, obviously to get this uniform business taken care of, we've got a lot of things on there that we still don't agree with needs to be paid back to some of the to the payroll. I wish we could set it up where we just had the personnel could have an X number of dollars. We talked before about raising it to for the new people for the first couple of years, probably $500, and then after 2 years, then go back into $300 for people to be able to buy whatever they need. One of the problems we have with the auditor's office is not particularly the auditor's office, but the whole proposal is some people under the IRS code are saying, you know, they can't wear that tie because they may wear that out to dinner or something like that, or the underbelts, or even the plainclothes, the deputies that work in investigations who have to wear a certain type of attire to look professional but still keep it in kind of the, if you will call it the Texas Western theme, so to speak. Then allow them to do that without them being taxed for that, you know, be able to purchase that and be reimbursed for taxes taken out of that. That's just one of the things that we're still kind of going around about. And I think that we actually had discussion about before, about maybe having the X number of dollars like they used to do back, starting in the 80s, in the early 80s, mid-80s, was here's how much you get, buy whatever you need, when you're done with that money, then we're finished with it. And that's not exactly this plan here, but
No,
it's a
and
lot easier.
the reason we've done away with some of those kind of things, if that's reimbursed on payroll, it changes that person's hourly rate of pay. And that's why we put a moratorium on certificate pay, and we have changed those because they add into that, and therefore they cause a tremendous amount of record keeping to notice that if someone was reimbursed here on payroll in January for something, then that changes their hourly wage for the rest of the year, and that's got to be caught and figured in there. You know, I liked it when we gave a flat amount, and we could do that, but that's not the way the IRS, who seems to have a little trouble with reality. My concern is I would rather look at adjusting the rate, especially on new people that we've talked about.
Right.
But look at that whole thing, and let's look at a different type of solution, but I don't want to get into the payroll deal. One, what it does, and the other thing, you know, I look at the auditors, if we pay retirement and Social Security on that, the employee's got to pay the same, and so they don't net out. We wind up spending more money than what we originally would have done unless you deduct that from the total. But I'd like for us to come, you know, to a little better solution, quite honestly, than I think
I can tell you.
the other
One
one.
of the things we're having problems with, just through the auditor's office, is some of the things such as a black tennis shoe, or a black shoe, or a black tactical boot. You know, pretty much if it's a tactical boot, everything was okay. And now what I understand is if that black tactical boot is not purchased from a law enforcement equipment distributor, such as Galls or one of the many thousands that there are, that they're not going to pay, that the auditor won't reimburse for that. Whereas if you go down to Academy and buy a high-tech brand, that's the same thing they sell in the law enforcement world.
Yeah.
It's high-tech, is a name brand, it's a black tactical boot. For about half the cost. Whereas paying $50 to $80 for a pair of black quote tactical boots through a law enforcement distributor, you can buy at Academy. That's a significant savings for our retention personnel.
Yeah.
They're on their feet up to 10, 12 hours, sometimes 16 hours a day in that jailhouse. There's a lot of things like that. I just don't think. I know the IRS rules are for a reason, but if you wear a black tactical boot, it's not something you're going to wear out to the dance hall. I don't think you're going to wear it to picnics, but it's something that you wear to work because it's good for your feet with a hard surface. I can't understand where the investigators wear, you know, most of them wear cowboy boots. If they go buy a pair of cowboy boots, that's what they wear. You know, most of those guys have, I guarantee that some of those guys have probably as many boots in their closets than our wives have shoes. I know my wife outnumbers me 25 to 1 on anything like that.
Well, Sheriff, I think all of that stuff, we could talk about that for hours on, and never agree, okay, with the IRS. Your problem is not with the auditor's office, it's with the IRS.
Right, I understand.
So, well, what I thought I heard you say, which I think is a very good idea, is just say, look, here is an allowance. If you've been here 2 years or less, you're going to get $500. If you've been here longer than that, you're going to get $300. We don't care if you buy shirts, pants, boots, we don't care. This is what you get. These are the things you're required to have.
Right.
Are we not allowed to do that?
No, that gets back to that same problem. We used to do it that way. But then that has to be now put into their hourly rate. So, you know, all of those things that were specialized categories, between the IRS and Fair Labor Standards, they came back and said those have to be, if you pay it as a monthly or a annual allowance, it has to be figured into that person's hourly rate.
Judge, what if we put it on a quarterly expense report? Just uniform reimbursement on...
Well, that's right now,
But
that's
then you
what
have
we're
to have
doing.
receipts, and
Well-
then some of those receipts don't qualify.
Why do we have to have receipts?
Well, if it's a reimbursement, there has to be an amount there known that
Well, it
comes
would be a
against.
standard, it would be a standard quarterly. on the expense report, if you submitted the expense report to me, uniform reimbursement $75 for this quarter, and on the expense report, why am I obligated to check it?
If it's not a reimbursement, but it's added in as a routine amount, then it has to be considered wages. This started years ago with auto allowance for different officials. We used to get two separate checks. One was subject to payroll taxes and retirement. When they changed it, both became subject to that, so it was rolled in as one. Just for some offices, we show those in their budget separate because we wanted to maintain that they realized that was part of what they were getting, that they had that. So it's simply to avoid that inflation to the hourly rate. Because when you start talking about overtime and all, then you've created a nightmare to keep up, because if you did it quarterly, that person's wages would go up by that amount quarterly, and next quarter they'd go up again, and next quarter they'd go up again.
What if we treated them as a vendor and paid Sally Sue this quarter $75? Would it then?
I don't know, but I think when you try to figure out sometimes how to help, you're still getting over the
If
same.
it was under $600, you wouldn't have to.
You got the limit there.
But and you wouldn't have that, but.
But, I mean, I'm looking at the fact we could probably reduce 3 people off the payroll if we didn't have to bookkeep this mess.
Well, or not add them, to do that, but. I'd say until we work all the way through this, I'd suggest we keep it the approved list, and it's a reimbursement for receipts presented, and we try to find out if there's some way to resolve this issue. I go buy the same boot at Academy for half to 2/3 of the price of getting it through one of the regular suppliers that marks that stuff up. That ought to count.
Well, Sheriff, who determines that list? I mean, who says that this is the approved list?
I made the approved list. This is the book you gotta have.
Well, but my question is about the boot you were talking about, that you could buy one at Academy that was basically the same thing. So why does one vendor's boot qualify and another vendor's doesn't? Who sets that?
Jill, I think Margaret.
Margaret.
On the list that the auditor sent over, I sent her a list of everything he approved. We've always paid for if it says tactical, it doesn't matter where it comes from. I've had to buy them from Zulily, and I paid if it says tactical. And on her list, she has now put, it is okay, IRS, if it's purchased from a uniform supply place like Galls or someplace like that, and that it is not, if it's not an approved place. She put that on the list, not us.
Okay. No,
so I have
really.
no idea why she did it, because we've always, when I worked over there, we reimbursed them if it was tactical, no matter where it came from. And all the ones I've done since I've come to work at the sheriff's office have been reimbursed as long as they say tactical. So I don't know where that came from.
Okay.
Well, it's hard to buy colored, tactical, Wrangler blue jeans.
They don't wear blue.
Okay, colored jeans.
They
They
order
order them
brown
from the brown shop. It's a specialized deal.
But they're not tactical. I mean, they're not going to say tactical.
No, there's no Wrangler pants made.
Anybody can buy them.
Right.
They're available to the general public.
Well, what I'm getting at, if it's not
That's only
tactical,
concerning boots, isn't it, Margaret?
No, I'm just talking about the tactical boots when I said that. Those are tactical. You can buy anybody
Yeah.
can buy them off of Galls. You
The
don't
pants
have to,
don't have to be from a tactical place, right?
I think if you could find them and they were what we needed, most of them get them from the uniform shop, I believe. But if they could find them somewhere cheaper, they're allowed to get them there.
Yeah, we get everything from uniform shop. The only other things I suggest, we talked about the sport jets, about doing a quartermaster. Got to buy the equipment, we issue it out, and we learn to see my dad used to tell me.
no way.
Where to shoot. Well, you wouldn't have to buy, you wouldn't have to buy 200 sets of everything off the bat. Everybody's got it.
Does the city do it that way?
Yes.
Yes, and I'm wondering if we can buy that in bulk cheaper than if we were reimbursing. Does that understand?
Individually.
If we contacted Galls and said we wanted 40 pair of this, are they going to cut us a better deal?
Yes, they will. They do that. They do that with the equipment for us.
Yeah, so I'm saying that's
then you're gonna have a warehouse, you're gonna have somebody in charge of it, somebody issuing
Not if,
stuff.
not if the orders flowed through us, and we weren't holding the orders, we were just filling the orders. Quartermaster takes your order for pants, and your order for boots, and your order for gloves, or whatever it is, and then the order comes in. And you're
Like
supposed to
make one
pick it up.
order a quarter?
But have you got,
And then just pay the,
but do you have somebody now that can do that?
Big Margaret.
then you could just pay the vendor direct, and you don't have to reimburse nothing.
And you limit it to $300 or $500 for the first 2 years or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, I hate to say what I'm going to say, but what if we came up that list, look and see what the vendors could do that, and we'd look at in that first 2 years, which realize we've already passed the 2016 budget, so you're at $300 right now. Okay, what's going to happen when the person gets their uniforms and they work 1 month? Are we going to get those back, or once they're issued to them, that it's all gone?
Now-
Once he issued it, they're gone in a month, they have to turn them back in. And those obviously can be laundry and tailored if they need to for someone else to use. Because we've done that with clothes that people they quit, they just say, here, I don't need these anymore, I'm going away to Colorado. And they'll give us that, and we've reissued those, the used uniforms, but.
Most are pretty good about doing that thing if it doesn't work out. Now, someone that doesn't turn in a uniform, and I'd asked Penny Miller this recently, we are unable to withhold
Right.
on that regard. But most people, I would say, better than 80% of them do turn their stuff
We used
in.
to make them give our patches, take the patches, bring the patches in off the uniform. That way, if they want to keep the shirt for whatever reason, we'd make them bring their patches in.
But they become unofficial that way.
Yeah, it's just a regular shirt they bought from, you go down to Salvation Army, buy a BDU shirt, military, you still have some Army insignia patches on.
Does everybody have their name embroidered on the shirt?
They're on a strip, military strip, so they can be removed.
That was not, is it? Johnson.
Yeah, Johnson has one.
It's on the street.
Your name on your shirt, does it come off?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It pulls off?
Not
Well,
now.
I mean, it doesn't pull off, but you have to undo
She
the
takes the
stitches.
It's a
Yeah, it's
strip,
sewn
stitched
on.
on there.
All of
Oh,
my
okay.
patches are sewn on.
Okay. It's not embroidered into the shirt, it's
No.
just sewed onto the shirt? Oh, okay.
Correct.
It's cheaper to do that way than.
I've seen some of the military guys, they just rip, that's Velcro.
Well, it's Velcro now.
Yeah, it's Velcro, but for us to do with these shirts, we'd have to have the Velcro, the backing sewed on. And that's an expense with the name tag made with it on the back end as well.
Well, I think we need another proposal. I think we need a proposal like we just talked about the quartermaster.
And the thing about that is you don't have to go out and buy, $250,000 worth of stuff, because everybody's got everything. It's the new people going on. And if somebody needs a new shirt, who's obviously been here for 10 years and they're eligible for it, they can just get the market, submit something, and boom, there it is. It's easy.
And it would keep you uniformed from the perspective of everyone would be alike in their kind.
Right.
And you had trouble with a particular shirt or pant holding up or a boot not lasting, then you
Right.
could change.
I think the only thing that we need to look at, what we need to do on is the investigators, the people that wear even the plain clothes people, even like the two chiefs, when they wear plain clothes, they pretty much wear the same thing the investigators wear. Some people want to buy that to wear it anyway, but should they be reimbursed for that, or it just should be just for actual uniforms? Maybe have a form where they can put in, submit for that uniform, and then be reimbursed back on a check for the plain clothes type items, the shirts or pants, the Wrangler pants. That's the only thing that unless the county wants to do that, we can quartermaster clothes for the uniform, the investigator's store. We can get all the
Sounds like
Hawaiian
we'll
shirts
build
on
that
half
can
price
work.
somewhere.
Yeah.
Issue it to Randy Elliott.
Well,
Next thing you know, we'll be buying clothes for everybody in the courthouse.
Well, is the,
They're not law enforcement.
how do we do those detectives today, Sheriff?
They pretty much just buy, some of them are wearing the actual like tactical pants or shirts, they'll wear some of their tactical stuff to work, because they're all SWAT.
That we buy, but the plain
Yes.
clothes we haven't been?
Right. Now, I think they have submitted some, there's been some, and Mark, you can tell me this right or wrong, is some of the CID guys submitted receipts and they get reimbursed back on their check.
On their payroll check?
Yes. Now, you gotta understand, it's not a whole lot of that going on, there's only
Yeah.
five people in there.
Well, I think the IRS rulings, where this all came from, was not for the official uniform, but for people that are wearing plain clothes, because people were deducting regular clothes as a business expense, and IRS, that's where this all got started.
Right.
It's hard to justify the regular clothes deal. The uniform, it's, you can understand that, but.
Yeah.
Well, the investigator could also just buy a regular shirt with the patch badge sewn onto it and their name embroidered on the side of it, and that's part of their uniform. That's, to me,
I would say that'd be reimbursable.
that'd be reimbursable. The cowboy hat, I wouldn't think that should be reimbursed because that's personal. You can wear that anywhere.
But those shirts could flow through the quartermaster venture here.
Sure they
That-
could.
That wouldn't be a issue or a problem. It may be Wranglers that would be the
Right?
issue.
Yeah. Unless you have a standardized pair that they have to wear every day, just one color, which, you could
Well,
have.
I don't see a warehouse full of stuff. What I see is an employee coming in, and he wears this size, and you order that size. When it comes in, you give it to him.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
That's what I see.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Up to the $300 or $5 or
Yeah.
whatever it's set on that, yeah.
Because most, like the investigators, their leather wear that they wear, they're going to buy that themselves because they generally get made to the prison. About a third of the cost you buy one outside of prison, and it's custom built, and it'll last literally 10 years, depending on how somebody eats. Those belts, but it's
Sometimes they don't stretch enough to last
no, they don't
10
stretch
years.
out. But the gun belts itself, for uniforms, they're the same uniform, the same gun belts that everybody has to have and have to buy to wear. So once again, equipment such as magazines for guns, handcuffs, those things, that doesn't count. We've seen some people try to slide those in, and we send it back to them, tell them we're not going to buy that.
But we have, Judge, in the neighborhood of $67,000 budgeted towards that endeavor today. I'm taking 225 people at $300. That's close proximity to what we budget for.
Well, our admin staff, such as, they don't have all the admin people up front, they don't have a uniform allowance for them. So that's not included.
So it'd be high.
But you
civilian
need to
stuff.
allow, okay, you're gonna go back and fill that in with constables and, the people in the district attorney's office, because if you pick out that group and you start doing them, it needs to work across the board.
How does the district attorney's office work?
Well, they have their investigators and their drug enforcement.
They're pretty much street clothes. It's like the
Well, but we're talking about street clothes for your detectives.
well, they're not
Okay.
reimbursed for that now.
No, but if you did this deal of, we had a contract and we purchased, let's say we set up a deal with the Browse Shop, just using, or you buy those, the county buys them, you save the sales tax then. So there could be, but we limit it, we don't quartermaster them. As you said, somebody wants some 36-30 pants, that's what and they're due for that, up to their $300 limit, they get that. But with the county buys them and issues them to them, and with the hopes that you might get them back or not, but, that's depending. But really, the turnover is in our jail personnel
Not
that,
our,
That's the big.
yeah. So,
Most, like the deputy on the street, they all have more than one uniform shirt, and most detention staff have at least a couple. Because on the street, you're going to be more prone to get either blood on it or getting it ripped open in a fight or something like that.
you mean chili, not blood.
No, I mean blood.
Chili, more likely.
That's what them adult bibs are for. But there's always that possibility, and that happens sometimes, and, you know, they have another truck to replace it, and they'll have to buy another one. So,
And then, is that what precinct 1 constable does as well? He's on that same type program?
I'm thinking so, but I can't tell you that for sure that they get the uniform allowance, but they should be getting it. And then I don't know about the DED people, but, and generally speaking, the investigators all wear civilian clothes. I don't see them in any kind of uniform, so I think they're probably not on that list. But Constable Precinct 1 would probably be that case, because he is.
Precinct 2 constable doesn't. They just wear street clothes.
Yeah. Same thing with 3, and we don't have anybody in 4.
I sure think it's a venture worth trying, and we can always modify it as we see or change, but it would take some of the players out of the game and put the sheriff's department basically responsible for monitoring their budget and the amount of clothing that they have, and let them select a chosen vendor that.
Which they're very capable of doing. I mean, they got that.
Could you all come back? What I hear being said, let's get a list of that. Let's sit down and go over that. Let's get the auditor's office involved, be sure we're all doing, and I will make contact and find out and say, before we spend a lot of Jill's time looking all this stuff up, that we find out, okay, is this got any problems going that route? We're talking about the same amount of money. We're talking about a little bit of processing, but it might be a whole lot. Y'all got to account for issuing the uniform
Right.
or
There's the list.
materials.
And then
Correct.
at the same time incorporate the additional reimbursement for the qualified or whoever those people are going to be, if we're going to have a scaled reimbursement from the 500 versus the 300, include that in the proposal coming back.
The only thing I'm saying is you set the budget for 2016.
Oh, I see.
And you jump to
Okay.
500. You've got a fair number
Okay.
that's a fair impact there.
But there would be no problem in at least proposing what they'd like to see in 2017.
Yes, sir.
That way it doesn't fall through the crack.
You're right. No, let's get that set up. And I think the thing would be to try to blend this in and work it, and we can see how it goes in 2016 and plan on that in 2017.
one of the things also remember that the jail staff doesn't have to have.
We're already working on the next day.
They'll have a utility belt to wear, but they don't have to have the holsters,
Right.
firearms, and magazine. They don't have.
And if you purchase that and issued it to them, you could just get it back
Take it
whenever they
back.
left.
Yeah, we only have just a handful of detention deputies in the jail anyway.
Right.
So-
You all would have to manage that and say, okay, I realize, Jim, you want all this stuff, but you're not law enforcement certified, you're not in that role.
Exactly right.
So you may want to look at that allowance for jailer only versus law enforcement, or those few people you have that are.
We can break it down.
So, that's going to be up to your classification to how you do that. But I think we could handle what you're talking about for your detectives if we're buying and issuing that. I could be wrong, though, and knowing the IRS has something to do with it, probably logic's not going to play into that. But let's see what we can do with it.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you all. All right, then no action will be taken on this at this time. All right, we're down to the part of public comment. Anyone in the audience, anything to bring up? Commissioners?
7 inches.
Oh, I would, Judge. I'd like Lori, if she would, just speak briefly on, you and I had spoke about the
Look at her.
election and what we can't do this May. And she had done some research, and Andrew and her had visited, I think, as well about that. And Andrew concurs with you.
That's on the county infrastructure tax
Yes.
proposal?
There was a memo sent out from the Secretary of State that the county cannot call an election for May. So election, if y'all want to do that again, you would have to do it in November, and my suggestion is, I wouldn't this November, not with it being a presidential. It's gonna be a long ballot, and I think it would be totally overlooked. But it's your call.
Can we not do it, you can't ever do it in May, or not
Yes.
just this May?
We can do it the following May in the off.
In other words, you've got to have so much time, is that the
No,
restriction?
it's the election cycle.
Okay.
It's
all right.
the election cycle.
So if we didn't do November, then next May would be that it'd be, say, May of 17.
Right.
Okay. Well, it's something to consider anyway.
Okay. Anything else?
I had 7 inches of rain at the precinct barn.
Yeah, a lot of rain, Judge. We were out pretty much in the afternoon Friday and into Friday night checking roads, and the most interesting thing was is we were out looking at some of our drainage projects that we'd completed after the floods in May, and we're very pleased that most of them were functioning very, very well with this kind of water, and that always makes you feel good that we thought we had the right plan, and sure enough we did. And of course, then you, as always, you find some more challenges out there that have to be dealt with. I think one of the things it pointed out is that our ditch remediation program that we're about to get rolling is going to be well received all through the county. We found several places we need to do some shaping, and I think we're going to be able to put our Great All program to work and really make some progress. But once again, it makes you feel good when you go out and you do a repair and then it works like you thought it was going to, and we found several instances of that. So
We had to close Freeburg Cooper Church Road there at the bridge, and the low water crossing at Morgan. We didn't close it, but we did post that the water's a little deeper than usual. It did not wash away the repair that we had made to Freeburg Cooper this last time. We fixed it 3 times in May. This time it got over the road about 3 foot, but it didn't tear it up. So when the water went down, we didn't have any repairs.
That is one you have on a project you're submitting to TxDOT, isn't it?
Yes,
Okay.
to FEMA.
Or
depending.
FEMA.
Yeah, FEMA.
Okay. All right. Well, I just want to say, we appreciate you all getting out, checking stuff. I know it was a long holiday weekend, but y'all still had people out checking and doing and looking after the safety of residents to make sure somebody, didn't drive off into high water on the road. But, there's a lot of territory to cover to look at that, and water doesn't always do what you think it's going to do. So,
Well, through the
Worked
years,
out
you kind of figure out where your sweet spots are at, or where your problem child's are at.
You know where to start looking.
You know where I want to go. So
no, I have never forgotten my first time to go out when I was commissioner with Fred Morgan one night, and we had loaded a bunch of barricades in the back of a dump truck. We're driving out on Headquarters Road, and he said, "There's a big horn right there." He said, "We need to put a barricade on each side of the road." I said, "Okay." So I thought, well, we'll drop one off and drive around. No. We started driving across. I said, "Fred, are you sure that's there?" He said, "Well, I'm pretty sure the way the water's running." He said, "How well do you swim?" That was not a...
I'll let you know in a minute.
So we went to using the fold-down signs, and that saved a lot of wear and tear of jumping in and out of backs of dump trucks and things. But all right, anything else? All right, it is 10:36, and we're adjourned.